Okay, let's unpack this branding piece first. It's
You
more than just sticking logo on something, right? Our sources seem to agree it's about creating an experience people remember.
Absolutely. And these custom screen printed items, they're presented as a really effective way to do that, to create that stickiness, especially, say, for a local business, maybe somewhere like York, PA.
Right, making a connection. So, how do tangible items actually do that?
Well, think about it. A physical item creates a physical link. Someone uses your branded t-shirt or a tote bag, maybe a mug, every single morning.
It's a constant little reminder.
Exactly. A subtle reminder. And the sources point to some big advantages. First, just better brand recognition. That repeated use, the visibility, it keeps you top of mind.
Okay.
And second, it's actually pretty cost-effective marketing. Um, Maybe the upfront cost feels like more than a quick digital ad, but
But it lasts longer.
right. The lifespan of a good quality item means you get way more impressions over time. So that cost per impression drops significantly. It's a smart long-term move, especially for building that sustained local awareness.
That makes total sense. I mean, I definitely still have a branded coffee cup from years ago, and I remember the company. What else? What other benefits came up?
Loyalty is a big one. Customer retention. If you give someone something genuinely useful, something high quality, it shows you appreciate them. It builds a stronger connection.
Yeah, it makes them feel valued.
hmm And it also kind of subtly boosts how people see your brand. Investing in good merch signals professionalism, builds trust.
Okay, so we understand why they work. But like what kinds of products actually make the biggest impact? Are some better than others?
Well, apparel comes up again and again.
Yeah.
T-shirts, hoodies, hats, they're consistently high impact.
Because people wear them out and about.
Exactly. They literally turn your customers into walking endorsements. And the articles mention, in a community like York, PA, seeing that local brand on apparel can really build that sense of connection and pride.
Ah, tapping into local identity.
Yeah. And they're great for event giveaways, employee uniforms gives a unified look, or just as nice gifts for your best customers.
Turning customers into walking billboards. I like that. What else
Mm.
popped up as popular?
Tote bags, if they're well made, get a lot of mileage just because people use them all the time. Practicality wins there. And then you've got, the usual suspects mugs, pens are always useful, but also things like tech accessories. That could be a smart move for reaching, say, younger professionals, maybe in a place like York.
Right, targeting the item to the audience.
That's the key. It has to
hmm
be something they'll actually use. That's how you get the benefit.
Yeah, not just something that gets tossed in a drawer.
Okay, the sources also had some really cool case studies. Anything stand out there?
Oh, yeah. The case studies were great. Coca-Cola's Share a Coke. That was a masterclass in using personalization on a product to drive sales and social media buzz.
I remember that one.
Nike doing custom sneaker giveaways, huge excitement, huge loyalty boost, all driven by that limited edition feel and social media tie-ins.
Creates that gotta have it feeling.
Totally. And Red Bull, their merchandise always aligns perfectly with that adventurous vibe, right? They give it out at events where their audience already is, builds that community feeling.
Those are massive global brands, though.
Sure.
What about examples that maybe a smaller business could relate to more? Well, Starbucks Rewards is interesting. They use exclusive merch tumblers, mugs, as incentives. It encourages repeat business, and those items almost become status symbols for loyal customers.
Right, like a badge of honor.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
And Airbnb's welcome gifts, those thoughtful, often local items they leave for guests that really enhances the experience, reinforces their brand values of like hospitality and being authentic.
So lots of different approaches, but the common thread is using a tangible item to deepen that customer connection.
Exactly. It really shows the power of having a strategy behind it.
Okay, so let's say a business, maybe one in York, PI, is thinking, right, I want to do this. Where do they even start?
Step one, according to all our sources, is know your audience deeply.
Yeah.
What do they actually like? What do they need? What would they find genuinely useful or cool?
Like we said about tech accessories for young professionals in York, perhaps.
Precisely. Or maybe it's a really sturdy tote bag for people who frequent farmers markets. The goal is for them to use it often. That's what gets you the brand visibility.
Makes sense. Don't want it gathering dust. What's next after figuring out the who?
Budget. Gotta set a clear budget. Promotional products can be cost-effective, but you need to know your per-unit cost. And definitely look into bulk discounts, especially if you're hitting local events in York where you'll give out a lot.
Right, volume matters.
Then, crucially, quality. The sources are really clear on this. The quality of the item is a reflection of your brand.
So don't cheap out.
Pretty much. A durable, well-made product lasts longer, gives more exposure, and leaves a way better impression. Especially in a competitive local market, that matters.
Okay, audience, budget, quality, then what?
The design. Design for impact. Your logo, your name needs to be clear, look good, and fit your overall brand style.
Consistent branding.
Yes. And for a local business like in York, maybe weaving in a subtle local element could strengthen that community tie. And finally, pick a good screen printing partner. That's vital.
How do you find a good one?
Look for quality work. Check their portfolio. Reliability is huge. Check reviews. Understand their turnaround times, their pricing structure. A good printer is a partner. They help bring your idea to life properly.
Okay, so you've done all that. You've got your awesome branded stuff. How do you make sure it actually does something for your brand out in the world?
Distribution strategy is key. Don't just hand them out randomly. Think about local events in York, fairs, festivals, trade shows. Those are prime spots for exposure. The item is a gift, a reminder.
Get it into people's hands where it matters.
Right. And reward your loyal customers. Use these items as thank you gifts that boosts retention, encourages word of mouth, which is super powerful in a place like York, maybe exclusive gifts for top customers or tier rewards.
Yes, ideas.
And don't forget your own team. Branded apparel for employees creates unity, looks professional, and turns them into walking brand ambassadors every day.
Good point. All right, let's switch gears a bit and get into the technical stuff. Screen printing. How does that actually work? Give us the behind-the-scenes look.
Okay, so at its heart, screen printing involves pushing ink through a mesh stencil onto whatever you're printing on, usually fabric.
A stencil, like for painting walls.
Sort of,
Yeah.
but much more precise. It's stretched really tight on a frame. And this method is known for creating really durable, vivid designs. That's why it's so popular for this kind of stuff.
Okay, so how do you get from a design file to that stencil and the final print? What are the steps?
Well, first is the design creation. You need the artwork prepped. Our sources definitely recommend using professional designers for the best results here.
Get the file right from the start.
Exactly. Then comes screen preparation. This is critical. You take that mesh screen, stretch it tight, and coat it with a light-sensitive liquid called emulsion.
Okay.
Then you place a film positive, basically a transparency of your design, onto the coated screen and expose the whole thing to strong UV light.
What does the light do?
It hardens the emulsion everywhere, except where your design is blocking the light. Then you wash the screen. The unhardened emulsion under your design washes away, leaving open mesh in the exact shape of your artwork. That's your stencil.
Ah, okay, I see. So the ink only goes through the design part.
Precisely. Then comes the actual printing. You align the screen over the t-shirt or bag or whatever. You put ink on the screen and use a tool called a squeegee to pull the ink across the stencil. It pushes through the open mesh onto the item.
And if you have multiple colors?
You need a separate screen, a separate stencil for each color. You print one color, maybe quick dry it, then print the next, lining them up perfectly.
Wow, okay. Sounds meticulous.
It is. And the final step is curing. The printed item goes through a heater, like a conveyor oven. This heat sets the ink permanently into the fabric so it doesn't wash out. Super important step for durability.
That's fascinating. A lot more involved than I imagined. Is it just for fabrics like t-shirts and bags?
Nope, it's actually really versatile. Our sources mention it's used on all sorts of things. Yes, apparel and bags, but also rigid stuff like skateboards, snowboards, other sports equipment.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. But again, using the right inks and curing properly is absolutely key, especially when it's representing your brand. Quality matters.
Definitely. Okay, now the big question for many businesses, cost. How does screen printing pricing generally work? Can you break that down?
Sure. One guide gave a basic formula. You take the garment price, multiply it by a markup, add a printing fee, maybe subtract a quantity discount, and that gives you the price per item. Garment price markup plus printing fee discount. Price. Sounds simple enough.
Well, that's the simplified view. A good printer has to factor in a lot more. Their shop overhead, how much time the job actually takes on the press, their production capacity, how many colors are in the design, the actual cost of the blank shirts. It all plays in.
So it's not really a one-size-fits-all price list.
Not at all. Because every job is different. The pricing really needs to be tailored specifically to that job. Okay, that makes sense. So what are some of the key strategies or factors that influence that final price?
The garment markup is a big piece. Industry standard seems to be around 150% to 200% over the wholesale cost. But interestingly, the markup percentage might be higher on cheaper items, like basic tees.
Higher markup on cheaper items? Why is that?
Because the fixed labor costs, setup, printing time, cleaning, are a bigger chunk of the total cost relative to the cheap shirt itself. So the higher markup helps cover that fixed effort. Customers tend to accept the final price on those items more readily too.
Ah, okay.
Whereas for more expensive things like hoodies or jackets, the percentage markup might be lower. Maybe they'll even use a fixed dollar markup on really premium stuff to keep the final price reasonable. So just applying the same percentage across the board doesn't always make sense for the printer.
That's a really interesting point about the t-shirt pricing. Never thought of it that way. What else drives the cost up or down?
Just understanding the job specifics is huge. How many places on the shirt are getting printed? Front, back, sleeve. Each location adds complexity.
Right. How many ink colors? Each color means another screen, more setup, more print time. Do they need special techniques like flash curing between colors? That adds time and cost.
Flash curing.
Yeah, it's like a quick heat blast to partially dry an ink layer before the next color goes on top. Also, whether they're using a fast automatic press or doing it more manually affects labor costs. Even how it's finished, like if they need to fold and bag each shirt for an online store, one source said that could add like 10% or more.
So lots of variables, more colors, more locations, special techniques, all adds up. What about, when a customer brings in really messy artwork, does that affect price?
Oh, definitely. The hidden cost of complexity. The pricing guides mention this. If the artwork is perfect, print ready, minimal fuss, maybe you get a slight break because it's easy.
Nice.
But if it needs a ton of revisions, complex prep work, or the client has, let's say, unrealistic expectations, yeah, a printer is totally justified in charging more for that extra time, effort, and maybe headache factor. Fair enough. Time is money, especially fixing bad files. What about discounts? People love discounts.
For sure. Quantity discounts are standard. Bigger order, lower per unit cost makes sense financially for the printer. Relationship discounts for good, loyal customers are also smart business.
Rewarding loyalty.
Exactly. And a great tip from the guide. Always show the discount on the invoice, even if it's just waiving a setup fee. Makes the customer feel good, reinforces the value.
Good psychological point. So, summing up pricing. Know your costs, understand the job details, price for complexity, use discounts wisely. Anything else key on pricing?
Yeah, maybe the most important thing. Price for your business, not just to beat competitors. Cover your costs, make a reasonable profit. You probably can't compete on price alone with massive online places.
Focus on quality and service instead.
Exactly. Quality, relationships, reliability. That's where smaller local shops can really win. And remember, pricing isn't static. You might need to adjust and refine your strategy as you go.
Great advice. Okay, one last area. Things sometimes go wrong in the print shop, right? What are some common screen printing problems printers run into?
Oh yeah, the article on top problems showed there's a lot that can go sideways if you're not careful. Things like blurring or ghosting where the image isn't sharp.
What causes that?
Could be lots of things.
Mm.
Ink, mixing speed, printing speed, static, the garment moving slightly, problems with the screen itself like low tension or issues with the emulsion exposure, even the gap between the screen and the garment being off.
Okay, lots of technical bits. What else?
Bubbling in the ink, maybe too much ink or printing too fast. Ink spreading out, looking fuzzy, maybe the ink's too thin, or the squeegee edge is dull. Leaks, pinholes where ink gets where it shouldn't, usually points to a problem with the stencil.
Sounds tricky to troubleshoot.
It can be. Streaks in the print often mean a damaged squeegee. Modeling kind of a blotchy look could be not enough ink, thin ink, or even the fabric itself.
So what's the general fix for getting crisp prints?
It comes down to careful setup and control. Checking the machine, doing test prints, using the right screen mesh for the design detail, ensuring good screen tension, correct squeegee angle and pressure.
Yeah.
And like we said before, proper ink curing is absolutely critical at the end.
It really drives home that screen printing is a real craft, isn't it? There's a lot of skill involved.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
definitely not just pushing ink through a screen. It's managing a whole lot of variables to get that consistent, high-quality result customers expect.
Well, this has been a seriously deep dive. We've covered so much ground from how these products boost brand recognition and loyalty.
To their cost effectiveness, the importance of strategy, understanding your audience, choosing quality items, effective design.
And picking the right printer and distribution methods. Plus, we got into the nitty-gritty of the printing process itself, the factors behind pricing.
How to care for the garments, the environmental angle, and even some of the common production challenges.
Yeah, a really comprehensive look. So let's wrap up with a final thought for everyone listening. Considering everything we've talked about, the environmental aspects, the production details, the branding power, how can businesses get really creative here? How might they weave screen-printed products into their bigger sustainability goals or marketing plans to make a truly meaningful connection?
That's a great question. Like, what innovative materials could be used?
Mm,
Or what design choices could boost both the brand and environmental responsibility?
exactly. Something beyond just putting a logo on a standard tee. How can you make it smarter, more resonant, maybe more sustainable? Lots to think about there.
Definitely food for thought.
Thanks so much for taking this deep dive with us today.